I don't blame people for being skeptical. Before my health fell apart, I was skeptical. I was totally bought into my doctor knows everything. Drugs are great. I had no reason to doubt what I was being told because I was going along in life pretty fine. And then all of a sudden, bang, my health fell apart at age 21. And I had to find solutions because my life sucked.
Have you ever wondered if your gut health could actually be influencing your mood? Today, I'm joined by Craig Brockie, a best-selling health author and mastermind behind the ultimate probiotic yogurt maker. He's here to discuss how probiotics can be a game changer for not just your digestion, but your mental health as well. If you're curious about the gut-brain connection, how to easily incorporate probiotics into your life, and why you should care about what's happening in your microbiome, this episode is a must-listen. Hey, good afternoon, Craig. Thank you so much for taking the time to join me today.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. I'm really happy to be here and share whatever I can to help people.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people have heard the term probiotics, but they don't know exactly what they are and why we should care about them, if you don't mind starting there.
Sure. Well, I'm in good condition now. I'm 50 years old, and most people think I look much younger than my age, and I feel much younger, and I feel great. But that wasn't always the case. When I was 21 years old, my health absolutely fell apart. I had something called leaky gut syndrome, and that's where your gut is so inflamed that it develops small holes in it, and the food that you're eating and drinking actually leaks out into your bloodstream before it's properly broken down. And as you can imagine, your immune system just goes nuts trying to deal with all these foreign pathogens that are just floating around in your blood. Like, hey, wait, there's some Big Mac floating around. Hey, what's this? Go over here. Anyway, your immune system just goes nuts and it's working overdrive. I also had chronic pain, chronic anxiety. A lot of people don't know this, but even the American Psychological Association themselves, they acknowledge that your gut is where 95% of your body's supply of serotonin, which is the feel-good neurotransmitter, is actually produced and stored in the gut. So when your gut's unhealthy, your mood can go out. I had chronic anxiety, and I sick all the time. My immune system was shot. I had chronic pain, and I was very unhappy, and I felt guilty and shame, regret. I'd look at myself in the mirror and not like the person who was reflecting back at me. And now I'm a happy person, and I'm healthy, hitting personal bests in the gym. My energy is great. I feel great. So I just want as many people as possible to have that as well. And probiotics is a great part of that, and gut health is really the fundamental of it. So the first step people need to realize is that if they've got any signs of gut problems, and that can be indigestion, gas or flatulence, can be acid reflux or heartburn. There's a number of issues, can be constipation, can be diarrhea. There's all these things that are kind of early warning signals that your gut's off and things aren't quite right. And it's important not to just sweep those under the carpet. Don't just grab a roll of Rolaids or Tums and try and, make it disappear. Just, respect, hey, my body's telling me something's wrong. I need to do something about it. But for a lot of people, they may not even have those symptoms and they have some sort of gut problem. It might not be obvious to you. For me personally, when I was in high school, I took a drug called tetracycline, which is an antibiotic, which is supposed to help with acne. And it did help with acne. I was quite insecure at the time. So when I was around 17, 18, I started taking tetracycline. And the problem with antibiotics is that they kill the good bacteria along with the bad bacteria. And what that does then is it opens the door for parasites, fungus like yeast, and bad bacteria to kind of take over. And then even if you don't have digestive issues, these things are lingering in there and causing problems. So what you can do with probiotics is you can actually restore the good guys in your system, if you will, because we're all covered with bacteria inside and out. All these things need to kind of be in balance. And what happens when you take antibiotics or birth control pills or stress or the artificial sweeteners can disrupt your microbiome also. Microbiome is just another word for the gut bacteria. Probiotics are super important, but sometimes it's not the right place to start. Sometimes you need to actually kill off the bad bacteria, the fungus, and the parasites first. and just kind of clean the table and then put the good probiotics in there, because sometimes just taking a lot of probiotics isn't quite enough to get the upper hand on the situation that you have going on. But it can help everything from neurotransmitters to hormones. For instance, something that's really popular right now is Ozempic, and it's very controversial. And I don't recommend people start with Ozempic if they can restore their gut, because GLP-1, that's the hormone that Ozempic actually agonizes or creates more of, is GLP-1. I'm not exactly sure how you pronounce the full word of GLP-1, but everyone just calls it GLP-1. Anyway, your gut actually produces GLP-1. In fact, I think, I didn't bring it. I brought some goodies with me, but there's actually a probiotic that is called a GLP-1 probiotic that helps your body actually produce its own GLP-1. And if you take something like berberine or metformin or a host of other things that can help restore the good bacteria in your gut and also handle, insulin problems and blood glucose issues, you may not need to take Ozempic to get the results that you want. And for most people, that's blood sugar control and or weight loss. Let's just be honest about it. Most people are looking in the mirror and they're like, hey, this double chin here, I wish I didn't have that anymore. This stomach that I've got here, I wish, let's get rid of that. So they want to get semaglutide, which is the active ingredient in Ozempic, or one of the other GLP-1 peptides. And a peptide is just an amino acid chain. So whenever I drop a new word, I try to just define it. So I'm not.
That helps. No, for sure. Yeah. No, that's another, kind of a buzzword right now. You hear athletes and a lot of just influencers talking about peptides.
I love peptides. I went deep into them. I've got more peptides in my fridge than I do food, at least in dollar value. Like, I've got hundreds of dollars of peptides in my fridge. I actually have a free peptide cheat sheet. If you go to CraigBrockie.com, hopefully my name is spelled right there on the bottom of the screen, CraigBrockie.com/free. There's a free peptide cheat sheet. I go into the top 30 peptides and show people how to use them. And there's even capsules that you can take. You don't even have to inject all of them. It's really cool.
Wow. Yeah, that's good to know, right? Because it is something that people are talking about right now, seemingly, and the more that we're learning about them, the more benefits we're seeing. And I think people are coming around more to recommending them than maybe they would a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I really think peptides are the future of medicine. That's my personal opinion. I've just had so many personal wins with them. For instance, we're getting a little off topic here, but I used to have problems with, I grew up in Canada, didn't get a lot of sun. We got 6 months of winter every year. I was very fair skinned and I would burn a lot. You would call it my Canadian tan, but now there's a peptide called melanotan. And there's two types. There's melanotan 1 and melanotan 2. There's just two different types of peptide, very similar. I personally prefer melanotan 1, but by using that peptide, now I'm able to go out in the sun and not get burnt, and I get a tan. It's really cool. So there's peptides that not just help you lose weight. There's ones that help you stimulate human growth hormone, and that's one of the criticisms of Ozempic, is that people lose muscle mass on them. But if they just got enough protein and worked out a little bit, they probably wouldn't lose any muscle mass at all. In fact, you can actually get stronger while you're on Ozempic if you do the right things. And I've got actually a free Ozempic guide on my website too, at CraigBrockie.com/free. There's a semaglutide success guide there if anyone actually wants to look into those things. Absolutely.
So for probiotics specifically, like, how are they working in our bodies?
Okay, well, your small intestine is well, people think of this tube, like you've got all, like, this small intestine just wrapping back and forth. It's very, very long. But what people need to realize is that it's not just a smooth tube. Like, if you were looking at a cross section of the small intestine, it's not like this. It's actually more like this. And these little fingers that come down are called villi. And what they do is they increase the surface area of your small intestine so that there's more area for you to absorb nutrients. But what happens is when you don't take care of your gut, these villi get covered with mucus and with yeast and bad bacteria. So they compromise your whole small intestine, so you're not absorbing the nutrients properly. So even if you were eating enough protein, if your stomach acidity is not good enough and you're not breaking down the protein to begin with, or if your gut is messed up and your small intestines are not absorbing those protein molecules, like the amino acids and peptides, then you're going to be protein deficient, for just as one example. So if you can actually clean out the bad stuff in there and actually repopulate it with good bacteria. And the thing people need to know is that there's all different types of probiotics. Like, for instance, this one here is called a mood probiotic, and this has got ones that can help improve your mood. And then there's other probiotics like this. This is from Dr. Mercola. I love Dr. Mercola, super controversial guy, but I love him. And this one is called Biothin. This one can help you lose weight. And let's find again, there was the GLP-1 I mentioned, but this just happens to be the #1 best-selling probiotic on Amazon. So they all have, there's different species of probiotics and there's different strains, and they all act in different ways. The problem is that most people have killed off a lot of these things, and then, inadvertently, not even knowing it. And then they might hear, oh, maybe if I take yogurt or something like that, that'll help. The problem is that yogurt only has 2 species of probiotics in it, and those species do not even populate the small intestine. They only affect the colon. So why would you just take 2 species when there's hundreds or at least dozens of different ones that you can expose yourself to? So I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but they all have different functions and different benefits, and you kind of want a lot of all these good ones, so you're getting all these positive effects and having a healthy digestion, healthy gut. So you're absorbing nutrients, assimilating them, and all these chemical processes that happen in your gut. You want all those things functioning properly. Another great thing that's good to take are digestive enzymes, because a lot of people just aren't breaking down their food properly. Or a lot of people don't even chew their food properly. I mean, like, if you're not chewing your food 20 to 30 times, you're not breaking it down enough, and you're putting your system under. Another problem is people drink too much liquid while they're eating. It's because what that does is it dilutes your stomach acid and your enzymes, so it makes it harder for your stomach to do the job that it needs to do. So I highly recommend anyone with compromised digestion to use digestive enzymes, and then to reduce how much liquid they're consuming while they're eating, to give their body just a break. And if you're into fasting, or you can get into fasting or intermittent fasting and these other things, then all the better, because you just need to give your digestive tract a break, because we've just been beating it up for all these years.
And you had mentioned, though, in the beginning about leaky gut. What are some other common health issues that probiotics could help with? Sure.
Well, in my opinion, just going on leaky gut, if someone's got fibromyalgia, that's like and chronic fatigue, that's another one, where your immune system's just overrun and you're having soreness all over your body and tiredness. To me, and there's a lot of research that indicates these are symptoms of a leaky gut. So just for starters, if you have something that extreme, it can be a leaky gut. But just dysbiosis, the word dysbiosis just means that there's some sort of dysfunction in the gut. That can lead to anything, because the word genetics gets thrown around a lot these days, especially. Oh, it's just genetics, or I'm genetically predisposed to blah, Well, that might be just what your weak link is in your body. But if your body's actually functioning properly and is healthy, you may not see symptoms in that weak link or whatever you're genetically predisposed to. Like, say your health is, here's a 10 out of 10, and your health's only at a 5 out of 10. Whatever is weak on you is probably going to flare up and cause some sort of problem. But if you can take your health all the way up to a 9 or an 8 or a 10 out of 10 and have ultimate health, then these symptoms go away. And even these things that doctors think are incurable turn out that usually they at least improve. And even terminal cases oftentimes turn around when people do the right things. When your gut's messed up and you don't have good probiotics in there, and you're not digesting your food properly, and you're not absorbing your food properly, and it sits in your colon and rots, you can have all kinds of problems.
Why do you think so many people are struggling with gut health? It seems to be a big topic of late.
Yeah, well, I think if you look back several decades, people weren't having gut health problems. I love seeing those pictures of people on the beach in the 60s. I don't know if you ever tune into X or the former Twitter or any of these social media channels. Sometimes you'll see people posting pictures from the 60s where you can't spot an obese person. And I was actually in Holland a few weeks ago, And I barely saw any obese people. I saw people with gray hair riding bicycles.
No, we were there last summer. I can attest to that. It's a thin, tall, fit society. You know?
Right. I'm 6'4", and I felt normal there. I really believe that the combination of big pharma and also big food and big agriculture, the fact that our food system is so poisonous, and that may sound just super controversial. Oh, Craig, you're wearing your tinfoil hat or whatever. But if you really look at the facts, just look at fertilizer. Fertilizer that they use on the crops is not even natural. It comes from petroleum. Yes, everybody, the fertilizer they put on your food supply is actually from petroleum. And it's only 3 minerals. And there's actually dozens of minerals that your body needs to function properly. So that by design is bad. And then on top of that, because the crops are so unhealthy because they don't give them the right minerals and other aspects like nutrients, then these crops are unhealthy. Then what do? They put more poison on top of them, and they use a common chemical called glyphosate or Roundup, which is used by the ton. Like I don't know how many tons are used in the agricultural industry, and it's poisonous. That's what it does. It kills things. So if you're not eating organic food, you're being exposed to these things. And then if you're eating anything that's in a package that's been processed, they're putting more chemicals in there. So just all this crap that you're putting in your body, you're overloading your body with toxicity. Glyphosate, that's also bad for your gut health and your gut microbiome and the bacteria in there. That can kill off the good guys in your system and create like a leaky gut. So anybody who's eating like conventional wheat and conventional anything, almost corn, this is like toxic stuff. And people got to avoid this stuff. And then you get sick, and then you go to the doctor and he's like, "Wow, you've got a pain in your arm. Well, let's put you on opioids," or whatever the heck they give you, right?
Yeah.
Let's just hide the symptom with another drug. So first of all, you've been poisoned by drugs or chemicals, and now they're just trying to hide the symptom of this being poisoned with other drugs and poisons. And so, in my opinion, that's why people are so messed up. And that's why in my book, and that's why I got healthy when I was 21 years old, I learned, hey, you got to clean the toxins out of your body. You got to get the bacteria, the bad bacteria out. You got to get the parasites out. You got to get the yeast out. And then you got to get the good bacteria in there. Then you need to detoxify all your organs. And then, bam, you're going to feel on fire, like in a good way.
No, that makes sense, right?
Yeah, and your body wants to heal. You cut something, you get a nick on your finger, what does it do? It heals. Your body's in a regenerative state all the time. You just have to take the barriers out of the way and give it the things it needs to heal. And I can guarantee people their body's going to improve. And the subtitle of my book is called Break Free from Your Health Issues and Live Your Best Life. So I don't care what issue a person has right now. Could be pain, could be anxiety, could be depression, could be whatever. If you do the right steps, these things are going to improve and you're going to feel better and you're going to want to talk to people about it like you on your show.
Exactly. How about someone who's listening that's, okay, they've seen probiotic on, like you said, yogurt or other products. What about the difference between what a prebiotic is and a probiotic?
Prebiotics, at least how I use them, I'm going to show you something right now. So this device here is my #1 best-selling product on Amazon. It's a probiotic yogurt maker, okay? And I'll actually show you some yogurt that I made right here. So this yogurt, this is a 1 quart container here. And I only used 1 capsule of this probiotic, actually, and you can use any one. I actually use this one. This is the #1 bestseller on Amazon. I used 1 capsule, and I was able to make a whole quart of yogurt. And the way I did that was I used half and half dairy, which has some sugar in it. Okay, sugar actually is a prebiotic. It's not a very good prebiotic, but it's something that the probiotics will feed on. Prebiotic is what probiotics eat. So you want to have prebiotics in your system, and those are usually fibers, you want to have lots of fiber in your system so the probiotics have something to feed on and actually grow and proliferate. But anyway, when you're making probiotic yogurt, we always use 2 tablespoons of prebiotics. And the particular one we use is it's called inulin. It's just a type of root, I believe. And you can also use potato starch. You can actually use sugar if you want to. They're just not the best choices. But anyway, you're just putting in basically, because if you're trying to make this yogurt, and we actually culture it for 36 hours. The stuff you get in the store is only cultured for 6 to 8 hours. So what happens is the probiotic count approximately doubles every 5 hours. So every 5 hours, this probiotic counts. If you're looking at a chart, it's going pop, 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 pop. And then towards the end, it just gets like vertical. You put the prebiotics in there so that once the probiotics actually exhaust the sugars that are in the milk, which are lactose. Like a lot of people are lactose intolerant. But if those people tried to have yogurt, they would probably tolerate it pretty well because yogurt usually has taken all the lactose out. The probiotics have actually fed on the lactose, which is a prebiotic. And that's why we actually have to put more prebiotics on it to make it super strong and make trillions of live cultures. Because if we just use the lactose that's in the half and half cream, it wouldn't be enough to get the probiotic count that we want.
So if someone listening and they're like, okay, you see it on their live cultures, if you don't mind, what exactly does that refer to?
They're also called CFU. That's another thing you'll see on like if I pull out these bottles, they'll have like how many. Sorry, we're getting into fine print here. I'm 50 years old, everybody.
I saw your Instagram. I said, you have such an energy. I was even blown away when you said 50.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
No, and I think I can help anybody look and feel younger in like 90 days. And that's what I want for everybody. So this one actually has 60 billion live cultures or CFU. It's basically cells, as far as I know, just that are actively live. And what happens is, for instance, I don't know if people have heard about raw milk.
Yeah.
And, okay, it's pretty much illegal.
Might kill depends on the state, right? Yeah.
If you drink raw milk,
yeah,
you're gonna die. Here, where I live in Florida, they market that it's only for pet consumption or something like that.
Oh, okay.
That's how they skirt the law, basically, is, oh, I'm buying this for my dog or my cat or something like that. But anyway, most of the milk that you see in the store, in fact, everything that you see in the store that's milk, has been pasteurized. And when you pasteurize something, you bring it up to a high temperature, and that's killing all the organisms that are in it. So, for instance, if you took yogurt and you then pasteurized it, then you would kill off all the cultures. So they would no longer be live cultures, they would be dead cultures.
Yeah.
So when I'm saying live cultures, you're taking something like this, and again, this one's for your mood specifically. So this one has 15 billion in a capsule. But then you put the prebiotics in the yogurt, and then you put you ferment it for 36 hours, and you can turn that into trillions of those. And the cool thing is then you're not having to buy expensive probiotics every month, and it's stronger. And then at the end of when you get towards the end of that batch, all you have to do is take a big spoonful of that, and you have a starter for your next batch. So you don't even have to use a capsule for your next batch. And that's why I'm selling these things like hotcakes on Amazon.
How about like lifestyle factors for people listening? You know, you hear about diet, of course, but how much does stress impact our gut bacteria?
That's definitely one of the factors that's going to cause problems. And it's a two-edged sword, because if your gut bacteria is messed up, it's going to cause you to not be producing serotonin and dopamine properly. You want to heal your gut to reduce the stress, but obviously if you're stressed out, then it's harder to heal your gut.
What do you feel is the most practical ways to get probiotics into our systems?
I'm biased, but
yeah, you have
the probiotic yogurt is just orders of magnitude stronger than anything else you're going to take, and you can actually tailor the probiotics to your specific needs. So if it is weight loss that you're looking for, you can take a probiotic that's more geared towards that. If it's anxiety, there's ones for that. I can't make any health claims about these things because I'd probably get thrown in jail. But these things support healthy mood, and they support, healthy weight, or however I'm supposed to phrase that to not get arrested.
Always check with your medical provider. Right.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, there's other fermented foods. And here, these ones you have to actually watch to make sure they're not pasteurized. Remember we talked about pasteurization,
yes. Heating,
which is basically cooking things. So sauerkraut, and there's a Korean one called kimchi. You can get sauerkraut, for instance, on the shelf in your grocery store that's in just like the packaged food area. That's been pasteurized. So it's probably got good vitamins and stuff in it, but in terms of probiotic count, it's going to have this many probiotics.
Yeah.
But if you go into the cooler section, you'll oftentimes find sauerkraut that's raw. You want to be looking for the word raw. And when it comes to kimchi or sauerkraut, kefir is another one too.
Near your milk, right?
Dr. William Davis, I got to give this guy kudos because this is the guy that got me started on the whole probiotic yogurt. But this is a great book for anybody to read. It's called Super Gut, as you can see. But he teaches you how in 4 weeks to really take your gut health from like terrible to great. He actually taught me a cool trick about kefir is if you buy it from the store, when you get it home, if you leave it out on the counter for an extra 24 hours, it has more time to ferment. And I don't know if he did the research on it or if he's just using common sense, but that's something that he recommended to actually boost the probiotic count in kefir, for just as one example.
Well, how about age restrictions, right? Are there people, you want to introduce this good bacteria to your gut? Is someone too young? Is someone potentially too old? Are there any restrictions there?
I don't think so. In fact, in Dr. Davis's book, he mentions that women who have had a C-section birth, or babies that have had a C-section birth, because they're not coming out the vaginal canal and getting exposed to various probiotics that the mother has, they actually can start life kind of at a disadvantage. There's one bacteria or probiotic called Lactis infantis. So that one in specific is for babies, and there's a host of other ones that would benefit babies also. So, and here's the thing, that if the mother doesn't have a natural birth, if it's a C-section, and if the mother doesn't have good gut health, there's a good chance the baby's going to start out without good bacteria, because where are they going to get the good bacteria if they're not getting it from the mom? And oh man, the formula food that, like, if you look at baby formulas, like, please do not give your child baby formulas if you can avoid it, or look for something that's organic and super healthy, or make your own.
When I go to the supermarket, I see A2 milk, A2 yogurt, like whatever. It seems like there's kind of a buzz around it, at least where I am. How does that sort of play into this whole world?
Okay, well, I'm pro A2 milk, but when people are making probiotic yogurt just as a specific, I think they can use either type. I mean, if they do have a problem with food, the milk's not A2 form, they may tolerate it better, or they might want to use goat's milk or soy milk or something like that. But in terms of foods, I think generally speaking, most people's bodies tend to do better on a low carbohydrate diet. And especially if you're trying to overcome gut problems, cutting out refined foods and refined sugars is definitely important. And it can seem difficult at first because oftentimes people have cravings. And that's maybe one of the places where someone might do well with Ozempic or one of these GLP-1 agonist peptides. But if a person really can't get control over what they're eating, that's maybe a good case for actually taking something a little bit more drastic to get the upper hand. Maybe at least for a few weeks to a few months just to really get your diet dialed in. But what I find is that most people have a tendency, once they start eating healthy foods and their gut does start healing and getting better, oftentimes you can actually start getting rid of food allergies. But early on, it's actually really good to find out what foods you are allergic to or sensitive to and eliminate those, because those are aggravating your system. So if you can actually just take those out of your diet, and I even teach people how they can actually, with a friend or a family member, go through their fridge and their cupboard and get a good idea what foods are sensitive for them, and to cut those out, at least for a few weeks while your digestive system is healing. But generally speaking, a lot of people do well with low carb foods, at least initially. And then oftentimes, if you can fix your body so it's dealing with sugars properly and you're not insulin resistant, and that's the big buzzword these days, is pre-diabetes and insulin resistance. If people can get their diet cleaned up and fix up their body and get their organs working properly, oftentimes to become more tolerant of these things. And like now, I will have an ice cream cone now and then. I'll splurge here and there. And I don't get too worried about it because my body's adaptive and I can handle these things. But I mean, if you're eating fast food every day and you're eating packaged food every day, I don't really think it matters what drug you're on or what supplements you're taking or what exercise you're doing. You're probably not going to get out of that rut. So something's going to have to change. But the good news is that after a few weeks or sometimes a few months of doing the right stuff, oftentimes you can start reintroducing these things and kind of like your body's handles them okay.
Well, how about going the opposite direction, right? So someone who may feel, okay, I'm introducing this stuff into my system, this good bacteria. Is there too much of a good thing in that respect? Too much good bacteria coming into your system and could potentially cause side effects?
Well, I think if you're taking these things, like if you're taking capsules of probiotics, I don't know. They typically recommend 1 or 2 a day as the dosage. And plus, they're super expensive. So, you know, a person would probably not want to take more than that just because it's expensive. So I don't think a person really has to worry about overdoing it with that. With the probiotic yogurt, because it is so strong and it is so cost effective, maybe a person could overdo it. What Dr. Davis recommends is a half cup every day. That's kind of his suggestion. I think that you could start lower than that if you're like having issues and then work your way up to it. Or after a while, you could probably increase that if you wanted to. I think it's really just important to listen to your body when you put something into it and just gauge what it gives you as a response. I think most things in life, it's good to take them on a gradient and take them in incremental steps and just, you know, not overdo it. I know some people just want to go max dose and try to get there faster, and maybe that works for some people, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I haven't heard of anyone overdosing on probiotics.
That's good. I just wanted to ask it, as well as skeptics. Like some people are like, okay, I hear this, I see the products, I see this yogurt. What about people who are skeptical about probiotics? Like, how do you address those concerns?
If they're healthy right now and they're feeling fine, great. I think they should just keep doing what they're doing. And if they're a happy, healthy, productive person, they don't have anxiety, depression, they have lots of energy. Gosh, there's people in certain parts of the world that they're doing enough things right that they're smoking a pack a day and living to 100 and happy about it.
Yeah.
And who am I to say they should change something up, you know? If a person wants to be skeptical, that's fine by them. But I mean, I'm not a doctor, but Dr. William Davis is actually a cardiologist, and he actually found that, I believe, 1-for-1, his cardiac patients had diabetes or pre-diabetic symptoms or a condition. So he found a strong link between heart disease, which is the #1 killer in America, everybody.
Right.
The #1 killer in America, heart disease, and insulin resistance. And insulin resistance has a strong correlation to a dysfunctional gut, dysfunctional pancreas, and you got to get these things back working properly. So I don't blame people for being skeptical. Before my health fell apart, I was skeptical. I was totally bought into my doctor knows everything. Drugs are great. I had no reason to doubt what I was being told because I was going along in life pretty fine. And then all of a sudden, bang, my health fell apart at age 21. And I had to find solutions because my life sucked.
Yeah. How about for people who, okay, if you had to say steps people should take that they can start doing today, someone listening right now, and they said, okay, I know something's going on with my gut. What can I start doing today until I take that next step?
Well, I'll mention a couple of products. One I sell, but there's dozens of other brands you can check out. One I don't sell, and it's actually probably my favorite supplement of all. And it's called oil of oregano. All it is oregano, that like oregano leaves that have been pressed into an oil. And there's all kinds of different oils. Like you can get lavender oil, you can get, all they do is they take the leaves of stuff and they press them and get the active ingredient out. And that's all oil of oregano is. But this stuff is super strong. It helps kill bad bacteria, helps kill parasites, helps kill yeast. I can almost guarantee anybody with dysbiosis, which again is just some sort of gut dysfunction, also has a yeast overgrowth, and they probably have a bacterial overgrowth. They probably have parasites also. So doing something to get rid of those things initially, And this is something you have to do very, very slow. In fact, this is where someone should get the first chapter of my book for free. Because if you start detoxifying your body too quickly, faster than your body can actually get the toxins out of your body, you can get negative symptoms. And some people call it a healing crisis. It could also be called a detox reaction. And it's not a good thing. People can get symptoms like headaches. They can get even flu-like symptoms if they start detoxifying too quickly. So the first thing people should do is download the first chapter of my book for free at craigbrockie.com/free. And then they would take a supplement like oil of oregano, another one that's really good, and it can also help with blood sugar moderation or control, is called berberine. And there's actually a prescription drug called metformin that's super cheap. Metformin is even cheaper than berberine. Berberine is pretty much like a natural form of metformin. They're very, very similar in function, but they help with prediabetes issues. They also tend to knock down your appetite, and they also have a good history of helping improve the gut microbiome also. So something like that, something to kill out parasites, bacteria, and yeast, but first start getting your body like moving properly. Like, you don't want to be constipated. That's the bottom line. If you're constipated and start detoxing, you're going to have a bad experience. Right. So chapter 1 is all about your colon health and making sure that your colon is doing really, really well. And then you can start detoxifying. And then from there, I mean, you can do all kinds of things after you start knocking out the bacteria. Like Dr. Davis has a great protocol here. It's a 4-week protocol. I think he suggests for around 2 weeks, you're starting to kill the bad stuff. And then you start introducing the good stuff with this probiotic yogurt. And so you would get my yogurt maker off Amazon and start creating your own probiotic yogurt, or buying capsules, or eating kimchi, or taking kefir, or whatever you want to do. Start putting the good bacteria in there. And then healing your gut. There's a lot of things people can do to heal their gut, and I mentioned those in my book also. But I really think getting your gut in good order first would be helpful, and then kind of build from there. And then you can start cleaning out your liver, cleaning out your kidneys, cleaning out your fat cells. And then people are just going to be feeling so fantastic. They're going to write me success letters, and they're going to thank you for having me on your show.
How about for like the future of probiotics research? How are things evolving there? Is there technology or any like sort of things on the horizon that you're excited about?
Well, again, I'll plug him again. This guy does the most research that I know on actual probiotics, and he actually does lab studies, and he's identified a particular probiotic species called L. reuteri, which he likes a lot. And he's done some studies with that and found that people tend to experience weight loss, their skin wrinkles improve, their feelings of empathy improve, because there's actually a hormone called oxytocin. It's the feel-good. It's also nicknamed the love hormone. Your body actually produces oxytocin, and it's produced in your gut. Again, it's another neurotransmitter that's produced in your gut. And by using this probiotic called L. reuteri, it can actually boost your body's production of oxytocin and make people feel more love and more empathy and feel better. So those are some really cool things. But I really think that it might be like the next frontier, where people are just doing different research into different probiotics. For instance, that GLP-1 probiotic I was telling you about, which I've successfully cloned in my probiotic yogurt maker. That's showing a lot of promise, because GLP-1 is a huge issue for people. Like, when people start taking a GLP-1 agonist peptide like Ozempic, Wegovy, they both stimulate GLP-1 production. And if a person can just get that going properly in their body and, get an abundant supply of GLP-1 naturally, why wouldn't you want that? So why would you want to take a drug to stimulate GLP-1 production when you can just get your gut to produce it naturally?
How about something surprising to you in all this research you've done on probiotics? What would be the most surprising thing that you've learned about them?
That's a cool question. Well, a good friend of mine, he was completely dairy intolerant. He could not handle dairy. And I sent him a copy of this book. I sent him my yogurt maker, and I sent him the probiotics. He's a really good friend, and he's always been helping me, so I wanted to do something for him. In fact, for having me on the show, I'm going to send you a free probiotic yogurt maker so you can get in the game.
Oh.
Anyway, I sent him a probiotic yogurt maker and all the stuff he needed to get started. within 2 weeks of taking this probiotic yogurt, and he was actually using half and half dairy, and he was just taking small amounts of it and gradually taking more. Within 2 weeks, his dairy intolerance was gone. And he was using dairy yogurt made with my probiotic yogurt maker. And I mean, to me, that was the coolest thing so far that I've had. Like, I'll go over them in my staff meeting and share the wins we're having, because we're not just making money, and we're doing that, which is great, but we're actually helping people's lives. And that's what Ultimate Health's all about.
Yeah. Well, for people listening, right, your book, your website, your yogurt maker, like if someone wants to learn more about you, get in touch with you, what would be the best place to go?
If I was going to give people one source, I'd say go to craigbrockie.com/free. That's where I've got the Ozempic guide. I've got the peptide cheat sheet, which are 30 top peptides. I've got the first chapter of my book. We also give you a 15% discount on any Ultimate Health products. But again, I'm all over social media also, pretty much any social media. I'm not on Snapchat, I don't think, but every other one that you can think of, I'm on there, and I'm producing content every day. Send me a comment, send me a question. Get on my email newsletter. Actually, when you get the first chapter of my book for free, you will get onto my newsletter, so then we can keep in touch that way. And when people reply, I reply to them, like.
Yeah. No, that's
I'm not
great.
a New York Times #1 best-selling author yet. I make millions of dollars selling health products, and I love that. But most people don't know who I am, so take advantage of me while you can.
No, I'm glad we had the time to sit down today and for you to share this with the audience. Great to meet you today, Craig, and thank you so much for taking the time.
Hey, absolute pleasure. I love the questions you asked, and I love that I was able to hopefully give your audience some helpful information, and I hope they take some action and feel better, because everybody deserves to feel great, and that's what I want for people.